Hi, this is Real Men Unscripted with D&D, Derek and Domingo. We hope you enjoy this podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Real Men Unscripted. I'm Derek.
I'm Domingo. Welcome back. Hope you had a good week.
And we have another guest, so another two-parter. So we have a pastor from our church.
Pastor Trenton Dorner.
There you go.
From our church.
From Hope Church LV. And but first, Domingo wants to tell something to our audience, and so go.
All right, so I have a friend who's like a brother to me. You know, we were on the police department, and when we worked Southeast, we were partners. So we did everything together. I traveled to Puerto Rico to move his mom down here from Puerto Rico back to the States. So he's like a brother to me. And his, I want to say his grandnephew, his sister's son's son. Grandnephew, right?
Works for me.
It works for me.
Family.
Yes. So he got attacked by a dog. Got attacked in the face. So there's a GoFundMe out for him. He was what is the helicopter thing called? Flight.
Airlift.
Yeah, airlifted to Utah, because I guess Las Vegas, Nevada doesn't have specialty doctors for pediatric surgery for that. So, anyways, he's in Utah right now. He's receiving care there. So there's a GoFundMe out there for him to help with the medical costs, because obviously his parents had to take time off from work. His grandma, who's a really good friend of ours, Denise, is out there helping care for him also. So if you guys just look at the GoFundMe on the screen, the link. If you guys have anything, just even a comment or money, whatever you can give.
Yeah, I mean, obviously prayers is number one.
Exactly.
And if you feel led to donate, you might not know the person, but you know Domingo or whatever, and you want to donate, that's great. And if you just want to pray, that's awesome too.
Yes.
So, all right. And Jerry will flash it up there when he with his he's always good at flashing stuff up there. So
IT skills.
Yeah. So all right.
No bad memes there, Jerry.
All right. So our guest, when I first met him, this is just a quick little, he looked just like my old neighbor named Diego.
Yeah, I remember this.
And so I could never remember his name, so I just call him Diego, because I'm going to get you a picture of Diego to post side by side. Now, he doesn't think he looks like...
I look nothing like him.
But the Diego at your age now, Diego's older now, but at your age, he looked a lot like you.
All right.
So
we'll let the viewers decide.
Yeah. I just got to find a picture. So,
are you sure his name wasn't something else? Because I get called Diego,
yeah,
even though my name is Domingo.
yeah.
So you probably got the wrong name.
No.
It was just wild because he just not even hello, dude, you look just like okay.
He didn't know you.
No, literally the first encounter I ever had with
wow.
Derek. So you look just like
I mean, the guy he was our neighbor. His parents owned an Italian restaurant, and even my wife thought.
Okay, but neighbor from Vegas or neighbor from
Cali?
Mendocino County?
Yeah. I mean, he was my neighbor for, I don't know, 10, 12 years. So I
Diego,
saw him growing up.
If you're watching this,
Yeah.
you're my twin.
Your what is it called?
Doppelganger, yeah.
There you go right here, Diego. Reach out.
So Trenton, Pastor Trenton, I got to get that title in there. So brother, tell us about yourself.
Man, well, first, thank you guys for having me on. Super grateful for you guys and for this podcast, and genuinely honored to be a part of it. Seriously, it means a lot. Yeah, like he said, my name's Trenton, not Diego. My name's Trenton. I am married to my beautiful wife, Griffin. We've been married for coming up on 8 years. We have 2 little boys, Drake and Jax. They are 3 years old. Drake is 3. Jax is 1. They are the best part about my life. I love them so much. They're unbelievable. They're insane, but they're awesome. So 2 boys in the house. We've lived in Vegas for coming up on 7 years. Love Vegas, love the place, love the city, and
even the summer.
That's the only part about Vegas. Genuinely, I've told people forever. For like the first 3 years I lived here, I was like, no, man, the summer's not that bad. It's great. It's dry. You know, it's the dry
You get
heat.
used to it.
Eventually, though, I got honest
And now,
and was
does your
like,
car
no,
have black leather inside?
yeah, it's terrible.
Oh.
It's terrible.
Oh,
Every car I've owned,
peel
except
yourself
with the
off the
exception, every car I've owned, with the exception of my very first car, has black leather in it. So it is what it is.
So
But
your wife's a boy mom, like my wife.
She is.
And
And
so
she
that's
kills it.
awesome. Yeah, boys are amazing, and you get to keep that name going.
Oh, yeah,
right?
we
So yeah, that's awesome.
what's his last name, Derek?
Dorner?
Oh, okay.
Like corner, but with a D.
yeah,
So, but you threw it out there, so that was
I
good.
didn't want you to mess up.
I know.
I covered for you.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, yes. So I like your story about how you came to Vegas initially, like, because you're from not Alabama.
not
It's from,
Alabama.
It's from Georgia.
Yep, originally from Georgia.
So why don't you, because we hear it in DH. DH is Discovering Hope at Hope Church, and Tammy and I were hosts. And when I heard that, I just thought it was, for me, I thought it was just cool that we had this pastor for, a long time, and Vance Pittman, senior pastor for 22 years. But his dad was a pastor in Georgia.
In
right?
Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
In Tennessee. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I might have screwed it up then, because I thought he was the pastor of your dad.
There's a connection.
Okay.
I'll explain the connection.
All right.
I'll explain.
Tell us this connection, because I just think it's cool how you came here, and then anyhow you tell it,
Yeah.
because
So
I could tell it, but I don't.
So if you don't know the story of Hope, Hope Church launched in 2001 here in Las Vegas. But before that, Pastor Vance and his wife, Christy, they were serving at a church in Tennessee with his dad. And if you know his story, he felt like God was calling them to something next. They didn't know what it was. My pastor at that time had reached out to him. Our church, First Baptist Woodstock, had a relationship with him. Woodstock, Georgia, reached out to Pastor Vance. We were going to, as our church, we were going to plant a church in Vegas. And our pastor felt like Vance was the person called to lead that church and to start that church. And so my home church is the church that planted Hope. So when I was in seventh grade, I took a mission trip with my student ministry from Woodstock, Georgia, to come serve Hope in its earlier days when they were in, I think it was when they were in the Pebble building. I don't know if you guys were a part of it then.
Yeah, I wasn't.
In the Pebble building. And so when I was in seventh grade, I came here to serve the church on a mission trip when I was in middle school.
Wow.
How in the world would I have ever known? Of course I didn't. I wasn't even a follower of Jesus at that point. My dad was, as we were talking about earlier, he was a pastor. So I just was involved in all the church things, all the mission trips, all the stuff.
Now, was he the pastor of Woodstock? The church?
He was one of the pastors
Wow,
at Woodstock.
okay.
He was, what his title was, senior associate pastor. He was basically like an executive pastor at the church that planted Hope. And so I just was involved all the time. I became a follower of Jesus at 16 years old. We can get into that later if we want to. But when I was 19 years old, I really felt like God had called me to Las Vegas through a conversation with my father, talking through multiplying churches and seeing the gospel expand through church planting. And as a result of that, my dad, I'll never forget it. I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I think I want to be involved in church planting in some way, shape, or form. He said, I have no idea how to do it, but I know the people who know it best. It's Vance Pittman at Hope Church in Las Vegas. And so that was in 2013. And little did I know, in 2017, my wife and I would move here to be the student pastor of the church.
Wow.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, and you met him when you came in middle school, right? Because he was the pastor. You met him then, or did you know him prior to that as well?
I knew of him. I didn't know him personally. I don't remember personally meeting him on the mission trip at all.
Oh, really?
I was just,
Okay.
I was worried about my friends and the girl I liked probably at that point.
Sure.
And,
Okay.
But
Because you still weren't
I wasn't a follower of Jesus
follower,
at that
right?
point.
You just came on the mission, but you weren't.
Yeah. The way I describe it, like I say it in DH, like I liked Jesus, but I didn't love Jesus. I liked what Jesus could give me, but I didn't want to surrender my life to Jesus and serve him all the days of my life. And so that didn't come till well later. But I met Pastor Vance and some other pastors on the team in 2014 on a visit out here. And for the next 3 years was a journey of God leading me and my eventual wife to move here and to be the student pastor in 2017.
And now Vance leaves and goes to Georgia.
He does. He lives like 5 minutes from where I grew up.
Is that? I mean, that is just crazy.
It's crazy.
Now,
that he's now with Sin
the two
Network.
pastors
there.
that left, are they over there also?
Yes, sir.
Like, because Pastor Teddy just joined his.
Pastor Teddy's still here, but
But
Pastor
he's gone,
Travis,
right?
who
Yeah.
was the executive
Ogle.
pastor for a long time, we love him and his family.
Yes.
And then Pastor Vance, they are there. That's where the North American
headquarters?
Mission Board, Sin Network, that's where it's headquartered.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, just
That's-
crazy. You come here and then
Full
20,
circle.
yeah,
full
23 years later, you head back somewhere near
Now we
there.
know where he's going to go back.
Yeah.
Don't put that on me, brother. I am here. I love Vegas.
Now, how does your wife feel about Vegas? I know you love Vegas. The boys probably love Vegas because Vegas.
They don't know any better. The boys don't know any better. They are Vegas
Oh
born.
yeah, they were born here. Yeah.
And I thought you met your wife here. You met her. You guys were married when you came?
Yeah, so our story, we went to the same high school together. We knew each other in high school, but we never dated or anything in high school. We started to date in college when I was a student pastor in Georgia. But we ended up getting engaged. I moved to North Carolina to go to seminary and work at a church there for some time. And we got married in December of 2016. She moves to North Carolina in January of 2017, and in May of 2017, we moved to Vegas.
Wow. Wow.
And she probably had
that's
never,
incredible.
ever been to the West Coast, right?
She never had been. We took a visit when we were interviewing, but that was the thing that got her. She came out and was like, "Man, this place is beautiful. The mountains." You've never been a place. I had never been a place where I remember distinctly sitting at a pool one day. It was like 80 something degrees. I'm sitting at the pool. I see palm trees in front of me. Like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. But behind me is Mount Charleston with snow on top of it. Like, where in the world are you seeing snow on top of mountains with palm trees with your shirt off at a pool?
And there's still snow up
And it
there
was
right
probably
now.
in the winter, right?
It was March, but yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. So to answer your question though, she loves Vegas. Vegas is home. We absolutely love the city, love the family via friends and the church family that God has brought to us here, and we absolutely love it.
Now, is she, a lot of pastors' wives, almost every pastor I know, their wives have done something work-wise at the church,
Mhm.
right? Most of the time. And we have like 30 pastors. I'm kidding, but we have a lot of pastors,
Yeah.
right? But it's a big church. So does she do, she's got 2 boys to raise, but is she just right now being a stay-home mom, which is awesome if she can do that, or is she working a little bit for the church? Or
So my wife uses her gifts in unique ways at the church. She doesn't get paid by the church to do anything, but the way we talk about it is her primary ministry is our home, raising our boys, supporting me in the ministry that God has called me to. But she's a boss. She has started her own interior design business called Homebody Design Company. We moved out here in 2017.
if you get us that link,
Homebody Design Company. Just look
you
it up
hear
on
that, Jerry?
Instagram. But
We'll post that for her.
she started her own interior design business just out of friends asking her to help design rooms
Nice.
and things in their house.
So
And
she has a creative eye, then. Huh?
she does. She's got an entrepreneurial spirit, a creative eye, a really unique gift for making spaces and people feel like home. So she started that. So she is a full-time mom and also works her side business that honestly is done
That's
fairly
amazing.
well.
You got to do something in Vegas, right?
Right.
There's too much free time. Well, I don't know. With 2 young ones.
She doesn't have a lot of free time, but she makes it work. She's a champ.
Yeah.
So how is it being a PK, pastor's kid? Did you think, were you kind of, I don't want to say forced, but usually a lot of pastors' kids follow in their footsteps. We just had Vance's son, right? It's one of his, Elijah, that's the oldest, right? I haven't met all his kids, but he's got a daughter that's, I know, married to a gentleman that's going to be a another pastor in a local church. So
He just planted his church, right?
yeah,
He's planting. That's
he's
Christian and
planting.
Hannah. They're two of my closest friends. Christian is my best friend.
okay.
And so Hannah's the oldest, then there's Caleb, and then there's Elijah, and then there's
okay.
Faith.
Okay.
But Elijah was on staff with us for a while. He just got ordained as a pastor.
I remember.
So when you get ordained, for people that might not know, and we don't necessarily always talk about religion or Jesus or whatever, but if it comes up, we're not afraid to talk about it. But when you're ordained, does that mean you didn't go to seminary, or you still did, or what does that actually mean?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean you didn't go to seminary. All ordination means is that you see this modeled in Acts chapter 13, where God specifically sets apart certain individuals, certain men, qualified men for gospel ministry, specifically in the role of pastor or elder. And the call is to, it says in Acts chapter 13 that the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Paul and Barnabas for the work that I've called them to. That's what we believe ordination is. Ordination is the setting apart the men that God has chosen to be a part of a specific work of ministry. And so when we ordained, like I got ordained, but I've been to seminary, it's basically the church elders, the pastors of the church, affirming that God has called this person. They are qualified. They're men of good character, and they're competent at the work that God has called them to. And we are laying our hands on them, saying we are affirming the work of God on this brother and setting them apart for gospel ministry. Most of the time that comes after seminary for a lot of guys. That's what happened for me. It came after I finished my seminary degree. For some guys, it happens earlier, but there's really no rhythm or pattern there.
Okay. And you went to seminary, you said, in Tennessee?
North
Georgia,
Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah. Somewhere in the Southeast.
Yeah.
You gotta remember geography, brother.
So how that's like 3 years, right, or so, or
It varies. It varies depending on degree and how fast you want to push through it and stuff like that. For me, it took 4 years because I went.
slacker?
I know. I went to school 1 year. I was on campus in North Carolina working at a church before I got married, and then when I did get married. And then when God called us out to Vegas, I had to finish up online. But learning how to be a full-time student pastor at a large church, newly married, and doing seminary all at the same time, it took a little longer than I wanted to. But I got it done.
So, like my son, Kevin.
Yep.
You know Kevin.
Love Kevin.
Yeah, he's thinking about doing seminary also. But he's also under the impression that you don't need seminary to become a pastor. Can you explain a little bit about that?
It's to say you have to have it would be an overstatement for sure. The biggest thing, I had a pastor growing up who would tell me that a call to the ministry is also a call to prepare. And so one aspect of the preparation would be the education, the knowledge, the understanding of theology and how all of that works together. And so I would certainly encourage people to do it. But the beauty now is so much of what you get in a classroom environment, in a room, in a classroom on campus somewhere, because of the internet and because of online courses and things like that, you can get it in other means. Some places, if you go to certain places in the country, they will not consider you for a pastoral job unless you do have the degree. Just like anything else where there's qualifications for a job, some people will not consider you, but it's certainly not a prerequisite for getting into ministry in some ways.
Huh. Now, what would you suggest would be the best way to go about seminary? Like in person, online? Because we have one in our Bible study who's actually doing it online. He's just going to graduate this May, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Who's that?
Jim Orby.
Yeah. You might. I mean, you've seen the name maybe in the men's group.
But he's doing it online. And then I'm a nerd. I go to college, but I got to see the teacher. Like I can't be at home because I get distracted. Now it's like, focus is out. So
he gets distracted just in here. So
yeah, that's okay. It's called old age. But in your opinion, since you did both, right?
Yep.
You said you finished up online, but you went in person in the beginning. What was better for you? What worked better? Or what do you think would be better for someone?
The key for me in my experience is there's so many things that seminary alone can't teach you about ministry leadership. So doing something so that you can be learning, getting what you need from the seminary classroom, whether that's online or in person, but also combining it with some sort of practical experience on the job training while you're doing it, to me is the sweet spot. So for me, it was great. I did the same thing with college, actually. I went to 1 year at college, and then I got hired for a job. So I had to leave college and finish online. Went to seminary, did it 1 year on campus, got hired for a job, had to finish up online. So both of my degrees are mixed in that way. And for me, the sweet spot is, for my personality, how I'm wired. I'm a natural learner. So I love reading books. I love studying on my own. I love watching sermons and podcasts and teaching in any format. And so I was going to do that anyway. But the beauty of how I did it was I was working in ministry, fleshing out practically what I was taking in through the classroom or through the computer. And that to me is the sweet spot. If you can do that, whether that's in person or online, having some sort of experience, whether that's volunteering, serving, or getting paid for ministry, that to me is the sweet spot.
So that's sort of like us with the academy. You go to an academy for
you can't
whatever.
do that online.
I know, but you go 5-6 months, and then you have the practical application, which is like field training, where
Right.
you're hands-on. So it's kind of the same idea.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Because I know he's done something with, what is it with the homeless people? Is that the hub, or is that what
Kevin?
he preaches? Yeah, where he preaches.
Yeah.
to the
He
homeless
works
people.
with the hub and the Love Well, and
Yeah, I love
does
Bob
an
too, yeah.
unbelievable job. Yeah, but like for somebody like Kevin, if they love the city, they want to be here, they want to do ministry here, I would encourage him to do it online and continue to serve in the avenues he's stepping in and
He's
serving in right
he's
now.
everywhere. I don't even know where he's.
I know he is. He's unbelievable. And but I think he could kill that. The biggest thing with doing it online is you have to be on top of your game. You got to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Because you're not
You have
going
to
to a
have
classroom every day.
focus.
And
So I should put a lock
hate
on his
school.
door. Don't come out, son.
Yeah.
And I hate school, so.
See, and I love school.
Wow. But Tammy's in Bible college right now. So
Where's she at?
She's in Colorado. She's online.
Charis.
Charis Bible. It's through Andrew
super cool.
Womack Ministries, and so so she's currently on.
What's the difference between seminary and Bible college?
One is a master's program. One's an undergrad. You can have a seminary at a Bible school, but like I have an undergrad degree in Bible and theology and a master's degree from a seminary.
You lost me already.
It's not a big difference. It's not a big difference. I went to a Christian school, but not a Bible school. And I'm trying to think of how to.
It's like you, when you became an FTO,
Yeah.
you were an undergrad as an officer, and then you got your master's and you started teaching the other officers as an FTO.
See, you dumbed it down now.
I did.
understand.
See, and that went over my head. That went over my head.
Now, I always say it's who you know, not what you know. So since your dad was a pastor, you said he initially, like, did he initially call Vance and say, like, hey, can you
There's an
look,
opening.
can you get my son on board? Or how does that, did he get you at least the interview? Like I got my middle son who ended up becoming a lawyer, but he worked at UNLV PD as a security. I got him the interview. I can't get him hired, but
Right.
I was able to, at least say enough about him to get the interview. So does he get you
Just
at least the
you're
interview?
describing the good old boy system,
Well, yeah.
right?
Certainly. I mean, I am here. I have the role I have. I have all the things I have because of people's influence and how they've shaped my life and connected me with other people. Certainly. So Pastor Vance and my dad had a relationship going back to Woodstock when they planted originally back in 2000,
So
2001.
he was a founding pastor of that church as well.
He wasn't a founding. The church I grew up in it's probably close to 200 years old now.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong there. So he wasn't a founding member, but he had been there for some time.
Gotcha.
Pastor Vance and him had a relationship that had continued out here. My dad has started a company for like financial consulting for churches. Church Hope is one of those churches. And so their relationship had continued all the way since then, since 2001.
Seems like Vance keeps these people that are special to him in his life for a long time, like Teddy and all these people. So I could see that.
Yeah. And so they're close friends. And so when I expressed a desire and interest in how does church planting work, how does multiplication work, things of that nature,
You can't jump ahead though. Like, what stirred in your heart to make you want to go that route?
Man, that's a long story. Very quickly. I became a follower of Jesus at 16 years old. Shortly went on a mission trip. 2 weeks after I became a Christian, I was in Honduras on a mission trip.
I've been there.
Do you speak Spanish though?
Sotocano Air Base.
I went to Tegucigalpa, Honduras.
That's where I was at.
Wow, we've talked about that before. But while I was there, I felt the first initial what I now know to be a calling into full-time pastoral ministry. At the time, all it was, man, I just really want to tell people about what Jesus has done for me and how he's changed my life. And so I'm telling people about Jesus. I'm doing all this stuff. And I started at that point meeting with some mentors and other pastors to discern what is God doing in my life. I don't trust my heart, so I needed other people to speak into me and see to hear what they saw God doing in my life. Pastor Chip Riggs was actually one of our pastors here, our executive pastor now. He was also at my home church at that time. So when I was 16, 17, I was meeting with Pastor Chip to discern a calling into ministry. So crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
But I had felt like God had eventually confirmed a calling into ministry, a calling to teach and to preach God's word. But up until then, up until college, that was all it was. And I'll never forget, I was in college. I was in my dorm room. I was reading a book called Follow Me by David Platt. He's a pastor in Washington, D.C. now. And I was reading the introduction of the book. And I really couldn't tell you what was happening in the introduction. But through that introduction and through reading it, I really, as honest as I can be, felt like I had an encounter with God in my dorm room where he put on my heart a desire to multiply the church in places that needed gospel churches. And I'd never had that specific kind of passion before. It was always just very general. I want to tell people about Jesus and help them follow him. But this burning passion to multiply the church in places that need gospel churches was birthed as a 18-year-old. And I immediately called my dad and said, what do I do with this?
Wow.
What do I do with it?
Now you were in North Carolina.
I was in Virginia at this point.
Virginia. You said Thornton.
Keep
Virginia,
up, man.
for, Virginia for
another college.
Virginia for college, North Carolina for seminary. Jerry's like, good Lord, guys. But that's how he said, okay, I don't know anything about it. He was lying. I'll never forget that line. He said, that's great, Trent. I don't know anything about church planting, but I know the people who know it best. They're in Las Vegas. Let me reach out to them and see if we can go visit and learn from them. So it just started with a visit in 2014, I believe, of learning church planting. Got to meet with Pastor Vance, a number of different pastors in the city who were planting churches at that time, because I just didn't know much about it. So I just came here in 2014, took notes, learned from these guys who have done it, the experts, and through that relationship in those meetings ended up resulting in about 3 years later being asked to consider interviewing for the student pastor
And
job.
you kept coming back during those 3 years?
No, that was the one visit. And then I didn't come back until 2017 on a visit during an interview. Yep.
Well, you're a pretty likable guy, so I could see why Vance said, yeah, you might want to interview.
Wow,
okay, so we're coming to the end of, I mean, this goes like fast, right?
This one really quick.
But this is a
I got
two-part.
like 100 questions I want to ask.
Yeah,
you.
we got more.
Three-part?
I mean, we
Can
might
we do
even
a
do a
three-part?
three. We might do three. We got
Jerry for real. It's like, good Lord,
3
guys.
episodes. So
just too much.
because we got a lot. And then we don't have to meet for a while if we do that. So Jerry would be like,
Jerry
thank
happy.
God. So I was telling you, this is the only scripted part. I was telling him about we do story time at the end. So again, any story that you want to come up with that is good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And so
It's been fairly serious. I want to break it up a little bit. Have you heard the story of my house burning down?
No.
You've never heard the story of my house burning down?
You haven't used
Here
it in
or
a
in
sermon
here
yet?
or somewhere else?
No, when I was growing up.
No.
I've shared it in sermons before, specifically student ministry sermons. I
but not like
can't
the main
remember if I've
service.
done it in the big
I think
service
I
yet.
would remember that.
I think I would remember too.
All right, so very quickly. So 6th grade, Trenton Dorner, again, before Jesus,
Did you burn the house down?
Just
okay,
wait.
okay.
Wait.
All right.
Get to the story.
I got my cuss.
So the
ready.
story is, I remember it was a Monday morning. And no, excuse me, it was Sunday. It was a Sunday afternoon.
Does your dad and mom know about it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I'm working with my dad. We had just moved into this new house. I'm working with my dad, and we had just moved into this house, but it had a whole bunch of stuff that we needed to throw away. So we had ordered a big dumpster, got all the trash into the dumpster, but we had a lot more trash to go through. And my dad was like, dude, what do we do? The dumpster's full. And he gets the bright idea. My dad is the wisest man I know. And he goes, I've got a great idea. Let's burn everything in the dumpster. It'll burn all the way down. We can just fill it up after that. It'll be like the trash never existed.
Oh my God.
And I said, that's an amazing idea. Let's do this. So he starts burning it. Long story short, it gets out of control. I mean, out of control, to the point where we had to call the fire department. They sent 3 fire trucks. No joke. Call my dad right now. 3 fire trucks to my parents' property, where they were pouring the water on the thing, trying to get this thing under control. Long story short, I remember being right by one of the firefighters, and he said to me, it's a really good thing that your dad called us, because had a piece of cardboard or something fallen out of the dumpster, it would have caught this pine straw, and it would have gone up and burned your whole house down. And I was like, man, that's wild. That would have been crazy. Well, fast forward, the next day, I'm in 6th grade. I'm going to school. I'm on the school bus, and my buddy says, hey, man, did you do your writing project? And I was like, oh, crap. I didn't do my writing project. And for some reason, why I felt the need to lie my way out of this to my friend, I just started lying. And I said, man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I was trying to do it, but yesterday my dad got this dumpster. And I start telling the story of all the fire stuff. And I said, the lie is, man, a piece of cardboard fell out of the dumpster and caught my pine straw, and it went all the way up to the top of my house, and it burned my entire house down. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, man, I lost everything. I couldn't do anything. This is like the most extreme version of my dog ate my homework ever. Long story short, go to school, and I end up telling all of my teachers this lie. I told every single one of them. I got out of all of my assignments.
For the whole month, probably.
Wait. I promise you, this is true story. And I'm thinking, I have just made it. I am literally not going to have to do an assignment for the rest of the year because I don't have a house. I'm thinking I've so done this well. And all my teachers found out. They were so sweet. They were so kind, so like trying to encourage me. I remember one teacher even prayed for me. It was wild. At the end of the school day, I'm thinking, I've done it. I've made it. I got out of my school project, got out of the writing project. I've made it. I'm going to go home and live like nothing happened. My parents aren't going to know. This is going to be great. No joke. I like can't believe this happened. The school announcements come on at the end of the day. And they made a very general statement. They said, students, we've had a tragedy. They didn't give my name, but they said a student's and his family's house has burned down. We're starting essentially the
GoFundMe back then. Oh my God.
Letter's being sent home to your parents. Make sure you take it with them. Yada, 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 yada. And in that moment, I'm sitting in my 6th grade math class and I just start bawling my eyes out because I'm like, no, this is getting so much worse. Long story short, I go and I confess it to my teachers. I think, okay, I've confessed it. I've lied. I confess it to them. I'm in the clear. I go home. I'm not home 10 minutes. My phone, the home phone rings. It says Creekland Middle School on it. My dumb butt decides to answer the phone. Why I answer it, I don't know. I answer the phone. They said, we need to talk to one of your parents. They talked to my parents. Long story short, they were going to suspend me. They were going to put me in counseling. They were going to do all sorts of stuff because they thought I was a pathological liar. And the truth is, I probably was. But
that's a PK for you.
Hey,
that's
either a cop's
that
kid
lie right
or
there beats any lie I ever told.
Wow.
that was my story.
So
Wow.
did you you didn't get suspended?
So somehow I didn't get suspended. My parents were the parents. I don't know if you guys had parents like this. They were like, hey, listen, whatever punishment the school is going to give you, ours is going to be much worse.
Yeah.
And so I got grounded for who knows how long. I remember, again, being a PK, my dad made me handwrite notes to all of the teachers, explaining to them at a public school how my actions were not Christ-like, not honoring to the Lord, and I'm so sorry, and please forgive me for my sin, all of this stuff.
Now, did they know your dad was a pastor? Like, did they go to his church?
No.
None of them. So this is a big city.
It wasn't a big city by any means, but it was not small by any means either.
And then where you live, because a garbage dumpster fire, like, is it like here where you have houses on both sides, or where you guys?
No, where my parents lived, they had about 8 acres.
Oh, so you were in the clear.
Yeah,
It
so
would
we
just
had some
been
space.
But it wasn't his idea. It was his dad.
Yeah.
So
I just took
but
that
he lied
with it.
about
I
it.
took it and ran with it. So that's my
Wow.
story, friends.
So look, you can lie about a fire and still become a pastor. So
Hey,
God's grace will cover
Yeah,
anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what he died on the cross for.
man,
Amen.
that was an amazing story.
Yes, it will.
I definitely don't think I've ever heard that at DH. That one you might have to start telling people.
But that'll
about
take
that one.
the whole hour for DH.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that could just be a sermon in itself.
Listen, I've used it plenty of times.
Yeah, but for the
But
students,
nobody
for
remembers the
students.
point. Nobody remembers the point out of the story. So I'm like, this isn't a good illustration if nobody remembers the point.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, we're gonna have Pastor Trenton on another episode. So again, like, subscribe, share. We're getting up there.
Getting up there.
Yeah, around
Crawling
30,
up.
35 or so now.
Oh, it's like 38, 39.
Yeah, something like that. Now that Trenton, he'll send it to his people in Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina.
Georgia.
No South Carolina. No South Carolina.
Okay, North
Georgia.
Carolina, Georgia.
Hope
Actually, my sister lives in South Carolina.
See?
Sorry.
That's why I knew that. No. All right. Well, anyhow, this is the episode. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and peace out.
Thank you. Have a good week.